This team is overachieving, or they're doing what they're doing. You add Kawhi Leonard to that, it's like, yo, because they're the
Which
fifth
Leonard are
best
we adding
defense
to
in
that though, Ron? Which
so
Leonard are we adding to that?
I'm saying they're the fifth best defense in the league right now
They got a
without
great
Kawhi.
defense. I'm
Great
not
defense
arguing
without
that.
Kawhi.
Mm-hmm.
Kawhi's only going to make that better. They're
If he
the
can hold up, sure.
22nd offense in the NBA. This is where Kawhi is going to help him the most. Kind of just alluding to what Mars said, taking pressure off the other guys. Now he makes it easier for Norman Powell to score. He makes it easier for James Harden to do what he does. He makes it easier for the other guys to get to their spots and do what they do best. But also, you guys have already been doing your thing without me, without Kawhi. Now I'm Kawhi's one of the easier guys just to slot into any team. Kind of a little bit KD like, where you could just slot him in there, and Kawhi's just going to be Kawhi on the offensive end. He's going to get in where he fits in.
Now remember, Ron, last season they were the fourth seed last year. And I don't think that they were nearly as good defensively last year as they are this year. I don't think so. Now you add Kawhi Leonard to that, and I don't think that you're going to get the bucket getter this year that you got last year. I mean, he's missing almost half the season. But before I go any further, and I want to make sure that we preference this, Mars, can you tell us your theory? Because this is great. Mars, tell us your theory on Kawhi Leonard. Please tell us your theory on Kawhi Leonard and what the Clippers were doing and what you think they're doing now.
Oh, yeah. My theory is obviously understanding that Kawhi has this degenerative knee, as it gets called. That Kawhi can't give you 10 months of basketball. His body just won't be able to give you 10 consecutive months of high-level basketball. And I think the Clippers recognize that, and they've tried load managing him, so like they'll rest him in certain games, or they won't play him in back-to-backs, or whatever the case may be. And then they find themselves in the same situation that when they need him the most in the playoffs, he can't hold up. And I think last season, they just tried to see, because a lot of people's theory about load management is like it doesn't do anything. But what does help is that if you build a tolerance to playing consistently, that you can actually just make it through because your body has now become used to playing instead of playing and then having downtime, not playing for 2 games and then playing again. I think the Clippers tried that last season and he broke down by March. So I think my theory is Kawhi Leonard can give you 6 months of basketball a year. So he half the year he can play basketball, half the year he can't. I think the Clippers are betting on them getting the 6 months from January to June and then accepting they won't get basketball from July to December. So the 6 months, including the 3 months of the offseason and the first 3 months of the regular season, they won't have Kawhi. That'll be him recovering from the 6 months he just gave them. But if they start his ramp-up process in January, they're banking on the fact that they can get Kawhi Leonard in the postseason when they need him the most. And a big part of the benefit of this is them being able to stay in the playoff race without Kawhi. And you give a lot of credit to Norman Powell, James Harden, Zoo, and the defense and Ty Lue for being able to keep them in the race. But I think we've seen Kawhi Leonard able to give you 6 months. Last year, he gave you from October to March. That's a 5-6 month stretch. In previous years, he's given you about 6 months, and then he breaks down in April. If you get the 6 months from January to June, that gets you to the finals. Like, if you play that far, obviously. And if they can get Kawhi for a whole postseason healthy, that's what they're banking on. They don't care about October to December. They don't care about October to early January, as long as they can make the playoffs. And if they have Kawhi for the postseason run, that's what they're hoping they have. And then in the offseason, he'll just be recovering. And then you won't see Kawhi on opening night for next season. You won't see him in November, but you'll probably see him around January again. And that's how they have to play it, I think, with Kawhi.
Even with that, Morris, I still think that those last 2 weeks of March, first week of April, I think Kawhi should be chilling. I don't think he should be playing for that.
That's right before the playoffs, like a couple
right before the playoffs. I think they should go ahead and let Kawhi rest up that knee, because when your knee is like that, it takes you can't rest 3 days, 4 days, and it takes weeks for that swelling, and that inflammation to come out your knee. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that last 2 weeks of March, maybe the first week of April, I think he should go ahead.
That April stretch, they probably will they'll probably rest a bunch of guys, but Kawhi obviously being the main concern. But I think he's shown enough that he can give you that high quality stretch. Last year in the regular season, he was an all NBA level player, and I think he made second team.
He made
he was that good. He was extremely efficient. His defense was really good. The play. Kawhi, when Kawhi is available, is great. I just think they need it They need it in April, May, and June, and not October, November, and December. And last year they had it in October, November, and December. So I think they're just swapping out the first 3 months for the last 3 months in terms of the timeline of Kawhi. That's my theory.
Makes sense.
And it does. It makes a lot of sense. My counter to that, Mars and I already had this conversation, so we're having it again today. And my counter to that was, well, Mars, we had seen Kawhi Leonard not 100%. We've seen him healthy as he could possibly be in the playoffs in 2019. He was a lot younger 6-7 years ago. So now what we're doing is we're moving 5-6 years later to this postseason where the injury has mounted and it's gotten worse. Now what's going to happen? The game is a lot different than what it was 6-7 years ago. Teams playing a lot faster. There's more space to cover. And on top of there being more space to cover, the playoffs, the level of intensity, it ramps up even more, which means you're going to need Leonard more. So is he going to be able to hold up? Because I saw him hold up where they basically held him together in the postseason in 2019 with glue and tape, because it was rough. He was having a really difficult time in 2019. Here we are 6 years later, 6 years later, where now this injury has deteriorated and it's gotten worse. What you want to do is you want to slow him down, but by the time we get to the postseason, we want to ramp him up. How long am I going to be able to have him to play at that higher level? Because a lot of people think that just because you sit out, that helps you. In fact, it doesn't. You know, I'm sure you've heard of something called muscle atrophy, where, you know, because you sit in, your muscles have a tendency to not cooperate and not respond. Well, I'm thinking with Leonard, okay, we can't just throw him back in the lineup come April, right? Before Ox is talking about sitting him. Well, then the playoffs start, and we're going to throw him back in the lineup and expect him, who he hasn't really trained, to be there for that stretch. I think it's going to be that's where my counter is, Mars. I think it's going to be rough once we get to the playoffs.
I mean, it's never a guarantee. Like with Kawhi, with Joel, it's never a guarantee. Like, this is not me saying, "Oh, this is what's going to work and it's going to be 100%."
We tried everything else. Why not?
I just think this
What
is
the hell?
probably this is their last Hail Mary. I guess is like, we need Kawhi healthy in the playoffs. Everyone knows the Clippers need Kawhi to have any shot of doing anything. And we tried playing him throughout the whole season so that his body can be acclimatized to playing. That didn't work. We tried load managing him throughout the season, but playing him still throughout the season from start to finish. That didn't work. The only time we had him healthy was when he played the season, didn't play back-to-backs, and then we had a 4-month break. And then we came back and Kawhi was healthy in the playoffs. So I think this is the same concept. It's like, we just need to be able to give him a 4-month break. They just started the 4-month break early. But it might not work, and Kawhi might break down still.
Try everything else.
But this is the last chance. And I think it's the most, to me, is the one that makes the most sense in terms of trying to get the most out of him. But it's still not a guarantee. Of course, it's not. It's hard to do. Like, he's got degenerative knees. Like, this is like asking Brandon Roy to be able to play through a whole season. It's like, it's hard. Like, when you have what he's got going on, it's gonna be damn near impossible. You just got to try and make it work. But I like their chances if Kawhi's there. That's what I say. I like their chances.
Yeah, they look very good. The Clippers' next couple games, they will be playing tonight in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. And then on Wednesday, they're going to travel to Denver, play the Nuggets. And then at home on Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday next week, they have the Hornets, the Heat, and the Nets. So those are their next 5 games. We will closely monitor Kawhi and see how he's looking, see how the Clippers are looking. But we're just excited that Kawhi's back.